Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And oh gosh, we always start with a fishing report, and we're going to jump right into that because I was going to say I feel like it's a whole different season than when we talked to people 1 week ago.
Well, and
that's not totally true.
Not only do we have a fishing report, but we have an expo recap quick. So
okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Because, well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, let's do an expo report first. So, we saw so many great people, so many great vendors, and saw new things. One of the great things about the Wisconsin Fishing Expo is that I always feel like, you run into a lot of your favorites, right? But that doesn't mean that it's fallen into a rut or anything. I guess that's a weird way to put it, right? But you always see lots of new stuff. It's just so much great stuff that there's the trout pond, people were catching fish, there's bumper boats, there's artists, stuff for your wall, there's tackle, there's boats, there's all the fishing stuff that I guess you would expect, right? But just such a range of fun things there for the weekend.
Yeah, and it was just so cool to see everybody towards the end of like our expo season, right? And that's kind of all. This show is great because one, it's super fun. Like you said, there's all kinds of stuff to do, and it's kind of like a mishmash of like the seasons, kind of like spring is, right? Like you get a little bit of a choice, you have a little window so you can go between seasons, but no, we get to see some of our friends that are primarily open water people, so that's really cool to like touch base with them before they get too busy. And we're starting to slow down a little bit, and then our winter friends are wrapping their deals up, starting to make up their orders for the summer to get ready for next winter, all that kind of stuff. So it's just really cool, and just the range of topics I think for me at the seminars is really cool because you get a really big range, and they do really well at picking topics that are transitional topics, right? Stuff that is applicable right now, going in from winter to spring. So that's always fun to listen to those people too, pop in and out while we're walking around.
But like how the Wisconsin Fishing Expo is kind of the bridge, the gap between the seasons. I guess that's exactly what happened in this past week, it feels like, because we've had the weather warming up quite a bit. And I think in the southern part of the state in the ice belt, I guess is what I mean, is, that ice is gone, been going. Yeah, you might have open water season already, right? And in the north, I know that there is still ice. But the thing that we've noticed, we actually were ice fishing the last 2 days after work because we know that the season is ending, and that's sad, right? But what we were able to do is go out and notice the conditions changing. And even from one day to the other, the ice got a lot slushier. So Tuesday, we actually saw trucks still driving out on the ice, but those landings are getting bad, and you see it all kinds of places on Facebook, all kinds of reports, trucks going in, UTVs going in, all these things going in. And so it is the time of the year to be safe because, like we're saying, these conditions are changing fast, and going into even just yesterday, it was different, but we have reports of rain coming up. I saw actually reports of storms. And so we all know that warm weather can affect ice and rain can affect ice. But when you have both together, that's like really bad, or really good, I suppose, if you are an open water fan and a walleye angler. And to be honest, as ice fishermen, we just have to shift gears because there is a whole bunch of fun right ahead of us with a whole new season. But I think our guest tonight is kind of an expert on that. So let's bring him in to talk about that. So Brandon, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys.
And it was so fun that we actually ran into you at this past week's Wisconsin Fishing Expo, and that's we got to chatting about walleyes. And I think in the conversation I said this should be a podcast. I said, are you available, something coming up? And you happen to be, so this was perfect timing. And thanks so much for being here.
Love being with you guys, love hanging out, and love talking walleyes. That's kind of the whole premise of the Walleye Files, my little podcast that I started. I appreciate you guys for having me on, and walleye season, open water season is really just kind of getting kicked off here where I live. I live about 30 minutes from the Bay of Green Bay, and the Pier's open. I fished on Friday, caught a few walleyes, ran my boat a little bit. Everything's working good, and it's only going to get better. I mean, we are to the point where things are going to start melting. The northern portions of Green Bay are going to be locked up for a little while yet with some floating ice, but the southern portions of the bay are going to be open here over the next couple of weeks.
And, one of the things I'm so interested in is that point in the year when people get so excited that they go out and they cut the launches open, right? And so it's always a delicate balance. When is too soon? But it doesn't seem like people get all too bent out of shape about those launches being opened up.
No, and I mean, they don't cut a lot of them up in like Ocano or other places where guys are driving off of with machines. It's mainly the Fox River, and the guys that do it, between Rob Korth and the Swamp Donkey guys and the oh gosh, I'm forgetting people. All the people that take their time and do that, as long as they're doing it safely, I totally commend them. They do a great job, and honestly, I don't ice fish a ton. I used to. I love ice fishing still. It's just a lot more work when you have the boat and the equipment and everything's ready to go. So for me, as soon as that river's open, man, I'm ready to go.
Oh my gosh, that is true. And it's kind of cool to get out there early season before it's all bumper boats, because we do know that it kind of packs in with people. So going into this busy season, the other thing that I have heard about Green Bay is that the water level is really low. Is that true?
Yeah, it's as low as I've seen it. Honestly, I stood in my boat the other day, and the casting pier into pier is above my head. It's 6 feet down. And this is something that we've just had low water years the last handful of years. I really hope that we get some rain this spring, this late winter and spring, and we just recover a little bit of water, because I worry about the spawn. I worry about the walleye spawn, the perch spawn, and just the overall fishery itself.
I think that's a great thing to bring up, and for me, that's kind of my wheelhouse. Like I'm in the natural resources and water quality type thing, and I keep an eye on that. And the last couple, we were going 17, 18. We had some really good water years. We were actually really high. The Wolf River was like spectacular for pan fishing. All fishing those years, but then we've kind of come into like a little bit of a sink where we've kind of been hovering around normal, a little less than normal. But I really do think that this year we're going to see a little bit more current this spring. I know the UP, I was just looking, Calumet County has 290 inches so far. So their record is 390, so they're only 100 inches off of their mark, and their average is about 240. So they have quite a bit of snow up north, and that always translates into some good current and stuff coming down. So I really do think that the spring is gonna be good for that.
Yeah, I hope so. And I just hope like the back sloughs on the Wolf River, there's areas in parts of Green Bay, same thing, these back sloughs and in high areas where, hopefully like the perch population has come back really well. But it's been beat up pretty good this year. Like guys were fishing in early December on the Bay of Green Bay every day for months. So, and that's totally fine. That's totally their right. That's their ability. That's totally fine. It's within the rules. I just hope that there is points in the year where fish can get to areas where they can spawn, be healthy, and not get the heck beat out of them all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
You were talking about there being a lot of current coming down, and to be honest, that's something that I think a lot about, because as somebody who, I'm a multi-species angler, but I'm primarily panfish. I guess that's my biggest strength. And so going into walleye season, I always hear to use, some of the lightest jigs that you can, but still touch the bottom. And so I always find it to be such a delicate balance to find the right weights. So is this all about bait selection, or is this all about boat position when there's a lot of current?
Oh, it's definitely both. That's the most political answer you'll ever get. It's definitely both of those things. So it doesn't matter where your boat's positioned if you're not using a bait that's going to be effective. But if you have the right jig and you're not positioning correctly, if you're not putting your bait where it needs to be, you're never going to fish efficiently as well. So I think those two things go hand in hand. I'm working current edges, or especially early in the year, working current edges You want to go where that fast meets the slow. And then again, like you said, I like the lightest I can get away with. I don't care if it's an 1/8 ounce, a 1/4 ounce, whatever I can use to make it so I'm still got good contact with the bottom, but I'm not really thumping that bottom every single time I drop that jig.
Well, and I think it is important to mention that with jig selection, I think something that I've overlooked in the past, but I've really started paying attention to in the last few years is line selection. So, you can get there's some like pretty awesome line out there right now, and if you can really lower that diameter of your line, you can get away with smaller jigs because the jig is really what keeps you towards the bottom. And if you have a higher diameter line, it's going to pick that jig up. So you need to have a heavier jig. So if you have a lighter or a smaller diameter line, that really allows you to have a wider range of jig selections, I really think.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think that lighter, thinner diameter is going to cut through everything a lot better. Obviously, that's scientifically proven. That's not something I can, say otherwise. But the one thing I will say is there's places like De Pere where you're going to fish up by a dam. There's a lot of rocks. There's a lot of snags.
Mm-hmm.
I like experimenting with my leader, and I'll throw a little heavier line, and I'll even throw a mono leader to help that jig float higher because I don't want to lose them 100 jigs a night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something, in it's personal preference. You don't have to fish that way, and that's totally fine. But some of the biggest fish I caught last spring, I'm throwing a 3-inch minnow style plastic up into the current, following it back down with the jig, and just waiting for the fish to bump it. And, sometimes you get snagged up, but if you're using a little different line choice, like you were talking about, you're not going to get snagged up as much, and you'll come away with a couple 6 to 8 pound fish sometimes.
Sometimes you just like any fish, Depends on the day. As far as I'm going to go back to, I guess, bait selection. So the other thing that I get really caught up on is, the color of bait to use, kind of no matter what I'm using, because sometimes, again, and I'll go back to saying I'm a panfish angler. It's that match the hatch, yada, yada. But when we talk about the spawn, those fish are kind of like very driven. They're doing other things. They're moving upstream. And so are we so concerned about matching the hatch, or is this more about catching attention and getting kind of like that reaction bite?
So like right now, those fish are eating. Like they're not spawning right now. The water's 33 degrees. When we get to that 40 to 45 degree mark, yeah, it doesn't matter. I think whatever gets those fish to react is going to be the bait you're throwing. But right now, if that water's clean, I'm throwing a natural color. If it's not so clean, obviously a little less natural, or even a darker color. Like I really like a black or a black and purple when that water is closer to that dirty. I just think that really dark color stands out, either really dark or even a lighter white color. But again, when they're when those fish are doing their thing and they're dropping eggs and they don't care about eating until after they're done, it doesn't matter that much. I think as long as you present a bait in their face and they, for some reason, decide to want to eat, that's when you're going to get bit. That's just how it goes during the spawn.
But something that actually pointed out that is almost the biggest key here, and I almost forgot to take that into account, right, is that you have to follow what the fish are doing, because so often people get trapped in the mindset, almost like what I was doing is like, whoa, launches are open, like walleye spawn is on, like
right.
Fish are moving, you just all of a sudden kind of your mindset moves to that season, right? But you have to take into account that water temperature is we're still half an ice season.
Yeah. So it's water temperature and moon phase too. They I'd say 40% of fish at least spawn on a full moon. And it's probably gonna be the first full moon in April in the lower part of the Bay, Green Bay. And then the farther up you go, it's gonna be later in the year, just based off of water temperature. But that being said, I mean, I can say that I've caught fish that are spawned out when it's 40 degree water, and I've caught fish with spawn in them. I caught a fish last year. We caught a fish last year in July with spawn in it. It was pretty wild. It was dumping eggs all over the boat. It was really weird, really bizarre. But it's just kind of how it goes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. But ultimately, I mean, I think use those different clues that you have to kind of piece those things together because, as it gets closer to that spawn temperature, those fish are moving, ever closer to those spawn grounds versus those staging grounds where they're eating, right? And so sometimes when you have, flats or shallows, sometimes it's all just kind of like one place, right? But as fish are really moving through, that can make a difference in where you target your fish that day.
Yeah, I think the best saying in the world when it comes to fishing and tournament fishing, Brandon Polinick, he fishes the Elite Series. He says control the controllables, and my controllables are where I can put my boat, when I can put it there. I can't control the weather, and I can't control the moon phase, and I can't control what a fish does. But if I can stack all the knowledge that I have in my favor and all the elements that are happening at once in my favor, and put my boat and my bait in the right place, I'm probably going to get bit.
That's a good point. And so, okay, I just want to point out to anybody that's listening, if you haven't went and listened to the Walleye Files with Brandon, he has some great guests on, and they just talk about walleyes all the time, and it's a pretty good show. And I bring that up because I wanted to know, it seems like every year there's like a hot bait on the bay, right? Like either a few years ago it was rattle traps, or then it was vibe baits, or it was hair jigs. Have you heard of anything? What's the new one coming up this year, if you've heard of one?
Gosh, I don't know. In my eyes, I'm gonna fish my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's plastics right now. We're gonna get into this little warmer water post spawn. I'm gonna throw a hair jig from April until like mid-June, and that is just my bread and butter. If you like to troll, you get into that 70 degree water mark, and I'm pulling spinners. I love trolling spinners. I don't do a lot of trolling anymore. We've talked about it on the Walleye Files. There's just, if you're a tournament fisherman, you got to understand the electronics, and you got to do what you got to do to try to win tournaments. And but I love trolling spinners. It's like my favorite thing in the world. As far as other baits, I mean, a jig and wrap is no secret, but it's great. A shiver minnow is great. And a death jig, a Walleye Nations Creations death jig is fantastic. And there's a lot of variations to that. Berkeley's got the Rowler jig. Kalen's has a search bait. They're all very similar, but they're all fantastic. I mean, if you're pitching a crawler on a fish with forward-facing sonar, you're going to get bit. And if you're pulling crawlers or pulling crankbaits in the summertime, they're probably going to eat if you're on the right structure. So
awesome.
Well, and I always love conversations like this because, like, what bait is going to work? And it's like,
yeah,
oh, this one,
all of them,
or yeah, or that one, or
it's
that
true.
one,
They will. They all have their place and time. But also, like I said, I'm going to fish what I'm confident in, and I think that goes a long ways. Like, I could throw a hair jig from right now until November and still catch fish on them anywhere, anytime. That being said, there's other baits that are going to be more effective, but my confidence level is incredibly high. I'm not I'm not a huge bass fisherman, but I can go and throw Lake Effect Feisty Fry and catch bass. But if you tell me here's a tube jig, go throw it. I've never caught a fish on a tube jig in my life. I would probably catch a few, but I'm not going to be confident about it. And it's going to hurt the mental side of things, and it's going to really ruin my game.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So while we're talking about baits, because I don't want to just like keep going and coming back, we have two questions. I'm going out of order, so I'm so sorry, Troy.
No, there's no order. You tell me. You ask me whatever you want.
But Kevin is saying, so what is your number one bait to use for Green Bay walleyes? Like, if you had to choose one, what's your number one?
Oh, that's so mean, Kevin. Good job, Kevin.
It is mean.
I'm throwing a half-ounce hair jig, and it's going to be black and purple. It's going to have red flake in it, and it's going to have a stinger hook because you always need a stinger hook.
I feel like honestly, that's a great choice. Yeah, that's a great choice. And you know what's nice about that is I feel like that's a good choice even if you're not on Green Bay. So, a very like minnow color, that dark profile, I don't know, stinger bait, that stinger hook. I mean, that's a great all around.
Yeah, we've talked about it on the podcast before. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're not putting a stinger hook on there. The amount of fish that just come up and nip at the back of that bait is just worth it. And then I mean, everywhere I've ever thrown purple and black, it catches fish because it shows up well in dirty water and it shows up extremely well in clean water. It looks like a goby, and anywhere from Sakakawea to Sault Ste. Marie to Green Bay to Lake Erie, it works great.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to jump back to Troy's question also. Do you feel line size matters when using live bait versus plastic, or is it more of a jig size thing?
Oh, okay. Line size definitely matters. And especially if I'm throwing jigs with live bait. I think it actually almost matters more at that point in time than it does with a plastic, because I want my presentation to be as natural as physically possible. I'm putting a crawler or a minnow in front of a fish. I'm trying to make it, seem like this is natural in their life and they're going to eat it. I'm throwing a really light diameter, as light as I can get, 6 or 8 pound test for a leader most of the time. When I'm pitching jigs, especially on structure on Winnebago, other places. Green Bay, I usually size up a little bit. We've got some pretty mean rocks. We like to lose a lot of jigs in the summertime, but the lightest you can go truly is probably your best decision. And a lot of times, like I said, I'm going to throw mono because I want that extra half second of lift. I want that extra half second of it. It's hanging there in that fish's nose. I want him to make a decision.
Well, and I also like that. I like the mono leader for the shock factor, because a lot of the rods nowadays have gone to that faster, extra fast action, and having that bungee cord on the end of your line really does it. Especially like you said, a lot of bites you get in the spring are nipping, and so you're getting a lot of that stinger hook, and so having any kind of cushion to be able to get that fish from where it is up into your boat is just going to help you.
Right. And I mean, we talk about stretch, guys. We're talking about like braid has like 1 inch of stretch. There's little to no stretch. Fluorocarbon's got like 4 inches of stretch per 30 inches of line. And then mono's got like 25 inches of stretch. It's like 30 to 40% stretch per 30 inches of line. So that's a lot. I mean, that's a sizable amount. And sometimes it's not a great thing, but I would say a majority of the time, I'm using a fluorocarbon leader because I want some stretch, but not all of it. But there are times when, hey, I want all the stretch. I'm throwing a jig on finicky fish in clean water. I need all the help I can get. And that's definitely the option there.
Awesome. I'm starting to get the feeling that this is one of those situations where I need like 100 rods stringed up in 100 ways. 100 presentations.
I think you need like 3. I think you need a black and purple hair jig with red flake from I1 Baits. They're not a sponsor, but my buddy Michael makes the best flipping hair jigs there are. So you need a hair jig rod with like 12-pound fluorocarbon leader. And whatever braid you choose. I mean, I like thinner braid. I use Suffix 832. I use like 12 or 15 pound, but whatever you're comfortable with. I'm using a death jig, especially all summer long. I'm going to be throwing a death jig with 12-pound mono. And then, I mean, anything with the jig at that point, or a jig and wrap. Like I said, if there's like 3 or 4 baits that I'm going to pull out that are going to be always tied on, it's going to be a jig and wrap, a hair jig, and probably a death jig when the water's warm enough.
Okay. And so then when we're out there, and because we're targeting all of these green bay giants, are you using a really heavy rod, or tell us more about that?
All right. Mostly medium light, extra fast. When I'm throwing, so I say that to say this, you don't need to go out and spend $1 million on rods. Go buy 2 or 3 rods, medium light, extra fast, or a medium fast. Medium fast does a great job, and I've caught more fish on a medium fast than probably any other rod I've ever owned. I'm throwing a glide bait on a medium fast rod most of the time, and then everything else is probably sizing down to that medium light with extra fast.
Okay, so we're talking about rods, and this is this is something that sparks debate in some conversations that I have. So, what length of rod do you like when you're running your hair jigs?
7 foot, or so last year I did some experimenting with 7'6" even. And it just feels a little big, a little whippy, but a 7 foot rod gets you just about anything you need. And I've got some 6/8, some 7 foot, some 7/1, some 7/3s. Like I've got a bunch of different styles and stuff, but yeah, 7 footer is kind of the prototypical. I'm going to throw whatever I want to throw rod.
Okay. I just bring that up because I think after doing this for a number of years now, I think if I was going to choose something, I would probably have to go with like a 6'6" or a 6'8" in that medium light, just for this specific application. I think you're right on the money for a 7-foot rod. You know, if that's going to be your 365-day a year walleye rod, that's like a great recommendation. I think specifically jigging the spring, like the walleye runs on the with when the seasons are open. I really just think that having a little bit shorter gives you a little bit more control of your vertical jig, especially if you're doing a lot of drift jigging. That's what Emily and I like to do for the majority of the springtime, is just do a lot of drift jigging. It's super simple as long as you can kind of just pay attention to what paths are productive that day, so you're not wasting your trips, but you get to your environment changes. You don't have to really worry about like batteries dying or like keeping your boat in a specific spot. You can just kind of float down the river. You just have to make sure you don't run into other people, but that's part of the game this time of year. But I really do think it's helped me a little bit just to have that little bit of shorter rod when you're doing that vertical jigging, as far as just being able to control it and feel the bottom a little bit.
100% agree. If I'm vertical jigging, the shorter the better. The 6 to 6 foot rod, honestly. I don't do a lot of vertical jigging anymore. I used to, this time of year especially, just a 1/4 ounce jig in a minnow, slipping the current like you're talking about. And that is totally correct. The 6'3" to a 6'6" rod for that is fantastic for that. Now that I don't do a lot of that, not so much.
So what are you doing instead?
I'm going to go find current breaks. And then on the Bay of Green Bay, when I'm not fishing a river, O'Connell opens up, Door County starts to open up, Pensauke opens up. There's places where I can put my boat in the water and go run, and I'm not fishing fish that are in a river tied to current. I'm fishing pods of fish that are moving their way towards a river. Now I'm pitching a hair jig right on their nose, following with forward facing, or just following what I see on my side scan.
Yeah, I'm not sure my boat is big enough for that.
It's definitely big enough for that.
There you go, Emily.
We have a 16-foot Alumacraft, and I love it, but some days the waves just strike up out there, and I get so nervous. But some days you're in luck.
Yeah, it's all conditions. But anybody can do. That's the coolest thing about fishing, is that it doesn't matter what size of your boat. If you're fishing from shore, there's a place for everybody, and there is an opportunity for everybody.
I think that's a really great point to be making. And I always forget about, I was going to say poor shore anglers, but it doesn't have to be poor. There's so many great fishing opportunities from shore this time of year. And so, we're talking about all of these techniques on the boat. Do you have any tips for shore fishing?
Yeah, I think the first and the best tip is to get away from everyone. And it's kind of silly because it's not so easy because you're kind of limited. But if you get away from where the boats are, and you get away from where the people are, and you're finding little current seams and your little breaks, you're going to catch fish. And then the other thing is just be courteous to people, please. Oh gosh, there's so many people who fight and throw fits and yell at each other and go on social media and tell people are mean and whatever else. But if everybody gives each other a little bit of respect, a little bit of love, whether it's me in a boat, I'm letting that guy on the shore have his spot, because man, he's not in my boat. He's not on this river like I am, in the river. I'm going to let him have that area. Totally 100%. But I don't know, just a little bit of respect and a little love goes a long way.
Going back in the conversation a little bit, but a really great point. Zach is saying he feels bites better with fluorocarbon and a minnow presentation. So really great point. Is
Yes.
bait making a difference in the way that you feel the bite?
So the bait's not going to make the difference, but the line will. That line's stiffer, just like braid to fluorocarbon. That line's a lot stiffer. There's so much stretch in fluorocarbon or in monofilament, you're just not going to feel as many bites. And that's not, I mean, it's not a bad thing. If you're on a bite where you need to feel every bite, obviously you got to fish accordingly. I'm probably going to size down my fluorocarbon leader, 6 pound test, maybe small, maybe even 4 pound test. I've seen guys do it. Joe Okada did it in a head-to-head event last year on Winnebago. So size down so you can really feel that bite, but also do whatever you need to do to make sure the fish are biting.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been fishing, the Green Bay area quite a while, and it sounds like you're fairly intimate with it. So give us one of your best stories in the boat, like this time of year. Like what's one of your favorite days that you can tell us about?
2020 was an interesting year, to say the least. 2020 was the best year of my life. My wife and I got engaged. We bought a house. I was going through, I was a nuclear plant operator. I was going through operator school. I was very stressed all the time. And they started doing social distancing things. Yeah, you guys can study from home. And a day I was studying from home, I texted a buddy and said, hey, let's go to Green Bay. And we drove up it was mid-April, drove up to Door County, threw the boat in the water, went and checked an area, and we pulled through there. And like, why don't we just troll through these fish once? I think there's a bunch of fish here. And we had some good 2 to 3 foot chop blown into it. The water's a little muddy. And we had 35 fish over 25 inches. It was one of the days where you were you can't do anything wrong. There's no way this is real. You're taking pictures for 4 hours. You're taking pictures of the sun setting behind you with 30 inches. And it was pretty special. So yeah, this time of year, that's definitely one of the best days I've ever had on the water.
That's super awesome.
And again, though, it sounds like one of the keys, though, was getting away from the rest of the people, because the story didn't include, the issue of bumper boats all around you.
We were the only boat on the water that night. It was pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh. In this early season when the bugs aren't out yet. Oh yeah, that's the time of year to do it.
Give me the bugs. Oh, you can't. Give me the bugs. Give me a 75-degree day in July or August. I can't. I don't know. I love fishing from now until I can't. But I don't mind the 75 and sunny.
That's so funny. Okay, so I do have to ask, and I'm gonna kind of, I guess, throw myself under the bus if that's a thing. But the one thing that we keep talking about, but I struggle with, is stinger hooks. And the reason for this is.
Give me a second.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, you did warn us. You said that your camera sometimes shuts off, and just to hang tight. So we will totally hang tight.
Yeah.
This is why my podcast is edited.
No, it's
so
okay.
Funny. Oh, that's so funny. No, it's totally fine.
Now you get to see behind the scenes of Brandon's podcast.
Yeah, I run as fast as I can from camera to chair. So sorry, everybody.
No,
it's okay. It does not matter at all. But as far as stinger hooks go, because we always talk about natural presentation and showing off the bait and yada yada. But here's me, is I have a jig, and I have a minnow, and then I have the line that goes to the stinger hook, and then it's and then you hook it in, and then there's just things all over the place and hooks all over the place. And when I toss in it, I look at your face, it's not actually that bad. I'm being a little bit dramatic, right? But I do kind of feel sometimes when I'm using stinger hooks, it just ends up as a crazy conglomerate. So do you have tips, or tell us more about the stinger hooks?
So you're not wrong. I mean, you put that bait in the water and it looks nothing natural at all. I mean, there's no minnow that just sits there. There's no minnow that just sits there straight out like that. The one thing I can say.
Appreciate your impersonation, because that's exactly what it looks like somehow.
Yeah, that's kind of how it's just. That's who I am. I'm giving you the impersonation. So the only thing so they sell shorter stinger hooks. So I mean, I've got a pretty decent variety of 1.5 to 2.5 inch stinger hooks. I would definitely experiment with a little smaller size. You can kind of hide that hook in the side of the bait a little better if he's still swimming. But for live bait, it's tough. Now for a hair jig, that's just they're not they don't know any difference when they're eating it anyway. And it's, like I said, it's kind of a necessity. So it's definitely, I don't have any tips for not getting all spun up or all, just rat's nested. But other than maybe probably look for a little shorter stinger hook, that's probably all I got.
Yeah. Well, and we do make our own, honestly, and so we can make them all kinds of.
Well, I was just
right?
gonna
And
say
so,
that's a really good activity, especially leading up to the next few weeks. It doesn't take a whole lot of skill. All of us tie hooks on, right? It's not there's no foreign material in this. And there's also one or two pretty decent YouTube videos on just making. I made a stinger hook board. And it's kind of a mishmash of a couple videos that I've watched that just made sense to me. And so all it is a couple of nails, and you just measure it out. And so I have, you have your anchor point, and then I have like 3 different sizes. So then I know that they'll all be the same exact size. And I think that doing something like that not only gives you control over the size of your stinger, but it just gets you a little bit more intimate with the components, right? Because a lot of times you don't know what hooks that you're getting in packages unless you get them from like, VMC stinger hooks or maybe the Berkeley Fusion or whatever, but you have the ability to choose those trebles, size and brand, right? Because I like a little bit of a smaller stinger hook. I know a lot of people like a little bit bigger ones, but I just find that that's what I prefer. And so that's how I make them. And so, yeah, definitely. If you guys are sitting out there thinking about, what you can be prepping right now, that's a great thing to do, especially tomorrow when it's thunderstorming out.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of time my own stinger hooks, but I totally agree, on the fact that the preparation is 85% of being successful on the water. And maybe even more, it might be 95%. So, there's a lot of time in the springtime I'm working on rods and other things, but stinger hooks is definitely something that you can control. Like I said, control the controllables. So if you can control the size of your stinger hooks, you can control the fact that you have a file and you are touching up every point on every treble hook, you are miles ahead of the game.
Are you doing that? Because I better start. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, I admit.
The way okay.
You're like, yes.
This is
answer,
crazy.
yes.
The short answer is definitely yes. And then this is crazy because I'm a fish nerd. I always have been. Myself and my best friends, we fish tournaments, we travel, we fish for 100 grand. It's silly. It's crazy. It's like high stakes gambling. That's what it is. But every bite matters. So to not touch up a hook, to not take a little hook file, take 20 seconds and check each side of a treble hook is just insane to me. And it's something that not a lot of people do. But it's something that's going to make you way more efficient, and 30 seconds to make me more efficient, that's worth it.
Well, it's like we've all had that moment where, you're fishing along, and for whatever species, it doesn't even matter, right?
No,
you're fishing along, and then all of a sudden you get that bite, and it almost rips the rod out of your hand. It's always like a fantastic bite. But then you set the hook, you're like right on it, because how could you not be? And then there's no fish there.
Yeah,
and
the what happened moment.
Yeah.
How is this possible? What happened?
You never know.
Yep. Yeah. You take 30 seconds to sharpen your hook, and you put the biggest walleye or the biggest pike or the biggest largemouth of your life in the boat. It's 100% worth it. You can look back on that and go, well, there you go. And like I said, in my case, if someday the world shines upon me and I win 100 grand and I'm holding a National Walleye Tour trophy above my head, I know that in that practice and before that tournament, I did everything I could to put the odds in my favor.
You've held that trophy.
Yeah, but not in the way that you're thinking. I've simply held it.
Yeah, I haven't held one because I don't want to hold one until I deserve holding one.
No, everyone knows that Emily and I cannot be tournament fishermen because we would probably get divorced.
I can tell you
we
that
do not, we could not, we just could not. We would be great tournament partners. We fish very well together. We have very good complementary skill sets, but we both hate losing. And so
yeah,
it,
that's
it just wouldn't work out for us. So we just fish for fun, and we get to talk to you guys about being angry when you don't win.
I love my wife. Bless her heart. She deals with me, and we fish tournaments together. We have had some of the best arguments we've ever had in a boat, and I would say all of them are probably my fault because I am a little bit controlling when it comes to trying to win a tournament. So I am a very blessed man to have a wife that likes to fish tournaments with me, and I will say that. But yeah, I understand the feeling of not enjoying losing. You got to look for the little wins in fishing because even the best of all time, I mean, Kevin Van Dam's the best fisherman, best tournament angler of all time. Kevin Van Dam won 29 times in over like 400 tournaments.
Right.
So it's just about the number of tournaments that you enter. Just keep entering, and the odds will be
eventually your numbers will get up there, right?
Well, game on. I'm going to keep going until I win one, I guess.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting, and that's why we'll be here watching.
You guys will be the second podcast I go on when I win one.
There you go. Perfect.
Only because
we'll hold you to that.
I've kind of got one I gotta do if I win.
That's okay. We'll let you
assumed
slide.
you meant your own.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So the other thing I have to ask now that we've talked all about, launching out on the lake, possibly being in the river in the flow or not, yada, yada. For people who have never been out on the bay, but they're hearing this, they want to take part. Do you have a tip on where do you start?
Yeah. The first tip that I can truly give you, and I'm not telling people to go out and spend a bunch of money and hire a guide.
But go out and hire a guide.
Well, not necessarily. Like my dad's a charter captain and he's a guide. There's a lot of really great charter captains in the area. There's a lot of great people that are very willing to help people learn. And if that's what you want to do, if you want to spend the money, spend a day or two on the Bay of Green Bay to learn some things, totally great. Totally great. That is not the route you have to go, though. There are plenty of great bait shops in the area. Smokies on the Bay, Swamp Donkey Bait and Tackle, No Bananas Outdoors and Pier as well. And North Shore and O'Connell, Howie's and Door County. Like there's a lot of great places that will give you as much information as you ask for nothing. Go spend some money in those bait shops. Go buy a couple hair jigs. Go buy a couple ripping wraps, whatever. Some stinger hooks because they're necessary. But I mean, there are a lot of great people in the area that are very willing to help. And then amazing podcasts like this one or the Walleye Files or other ones that will give you reports. That's free information. It's, spend an hour listening to some of these podcasts, do some research, look at some maps, figure out, okay, there's 4 or 5 areas around O'Connell, or there's 4 or 5 areas around Shores Dock or Green Bay Metro that I want to go look at and go fish and go fail. Failing is the best way to learn. And I've failed so many times on the water. And it all plays a part into being successful in the long run.
I love that because I say this a lot on our podcast, and I really do enjoy fishing a lot. And if I catch fish, that's really great. I have a great day. If I don't catch any fish, I still have a good day. Just because I don't consider not catching fish failing as much as I do learning. Right? Because if you learned one thing from the day that you didn't catch fish, don't go and do that same thing tomorrow. You learned something.
Do something different. Yeah.
So just change something up and just take all of that in and absorb the day and take all of that information that you did gain, apply it to your next trip. And the Green Bay fishing is no different than any other fishing that you're going to go do. It's not a huge secret thing. There, just like anything else, there's nuances, but it's something that's totally attainable for anybody on shore or on a boat. Right. And so you just have to go out there and just give it a go.
Yeah. And let's not be let's not kid ourselves. Green Bay is not an easy place. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of fish movements. There's a lot of things that make these fish do certain things, whether it's pressure, moon phase, weather, seasonal patterns, whatever. So I can tell you, there's been days in the last couple of years where I've gone out and not caught a fish. 2 days, 3 days, 6 days in a row. Pre-fishing for national walleye tour events on my home body of water makes you want to rip your hair out.
Yeah.
But those are the days that when you catch them, you look back and go, okay, I figured a little something out today because of those days.
Yeah, that is for sure. Okay, and so if people do want to book a guide, like you guide, right? Do you have days open?
I do not.
You
I
don't
do
even
not guide. I've dabbled with the idea maybe someday when things are a little slower. I'm not fishing so many tournaments. I will promote Anglers Plus Guide Service because that is my father, and I always joke that I taught him everything he knows, but there's a 0% chance of that. Every fundamental piece of knowledge that I have for the Bay of Green Bay has started with that man, and I appreciate him. So Jerry Ruffolo with Anglers Plus Guide Service. There's a lot of other great ones as well. So.
And Josh was able to take a link for that and put it in the comment section. So if anyone is interested, they'll be able to just click on that and head on over. And if there's days open, it looks like you can view all of that and pricing and all the different things that they have there. So that should be easy. And I guess as far as moving forward, we cannot wait to, I mean, you have all kinds of online adventures. So share with us one more time how we follow you and continue to get all this information that you share.
Oh, yeah. So whether it's Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, any of your podcast places, the Walleye Files is my podcast. We've got a really crazy 2026 National Walleye Tour is coming up. I'm going to fish the whole season. My wife and I qualified for the Cabela's National Team Championship. We're going to fish that, probably put some content out on that. We're going to try to do a behind-the-scenes series on the National Walleye Tour, what it's like to fish it, what our days are like on the water, but more importantly, what our days are like off the water sometimes. It should be a lot of fun. Obviously, a lot of tackle talks. I've got some really great podcasts lined up. I just did one that's going to drop next week with Mark Martin and Gary Roach, which is the father of walleye fishing. So we've got some fantastic things coming up. So it's going to be a really exciting year. But yeah, the Walleye Files, anywhere you can get your podcasts.
Dang, I'm gonna have to listen to that one. It's always fun talking with Gary. He has a plethora of information. It's just amazing. He's probably forgot more about walleye fishing than I have knowledge of just
as well. So it's not even close. Yeah, Gary has seen and done more things, and I honestly, most of that podcast, I got to just sit back and listen to him talk, and it was one of the most enjoyable podcasts I've ever filmed. So it's pretty special. But yeah, it's been really fun. You know, the whole podcast thing. You guys inspired me. A couple other people inspired me to really do this and jump in head first, and it's been pretty special. A few trials and tribulations along the way, as there is for anything else. But I want to say thanks to you guys and some others because it's been a heck of a ride.
Oh my gosh! Well, we are. Well, first of all, blushing. But so excited to hear more, and we love to follow you as well. And so thanks so much for, I guess, being a part of the industry. I guess that sounds silly, but that is the thing is, sometimes people are so concerned about like the bait brand that works or the boat brand that's best or the whatever, but realistically we're all going out there and, targeting the same fish, and how you do that is kind of up to you. And so to hear other people's experiences and what works for them is something that is always so important. And so thanks so much for being there to share so much of that.
Oh, I enjoy every second of it. I enjoy teaching, educating, and just sharing experiences. And the industry is just it's kind of a big dysfunctional family. So you just got to treat people kindly, spread some love, and it'll all get returned back to you at some point in time.
Oh my gosh. Well, with that, thanks so much for being on. And after we say goodbye, just hang tight because then we're going to talk to you a little bit more off air. But to everybody at home, thanks so much for joining us for being here, because that is always a big part of the fun. And I guess with that, we'll see everyone on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.
See you guys.